Princess reunites with her long-lost savior. Her unexpected declaration stuns all. The grand ballroom of Eldoria's royal palace buzzed with anticipation. The annual Unity Gala, a celebration of peace between humans and the kingdom's diverse alien allies, was in full swing. Nobles, dignitaries, and adventurers from across the galaxy mingled beneath the ornate crystal chandeliers. Princess Alara, known for her grace and intelligence, stood at the heart of the gathering. Her sapphire gown shimmered as brightly as her piercing blue eyes, but her focus was elsewhere. Tonight wasn't just a diplomatic event, it was the night she had planned for years. A decade earlier, Alara had been a young girl lost in the wilderness of Andare Prime, a treacherous planet known for its deadly flora and fauna. Cornered by a vicious shadow beast, she had been saved by a human traveler, a young man with unkempt brown hair and a scar over his left eye. Before she could even thank him, he vanished into the forest, leaving her with only the memory of his kindness and courage. For years, she searched for her mysterious savior, only to find dead ends. Humans were rare in her corner of the galaxy, and those who ventured to Andare Prime were rarer still. But now, through whispers and rumors, she had finally found him. Announcing, Captain Kale Rylan of the Starbound Resolve, the herald boomed. The room hushed as Kale entered. He was no longer the scrappy wanderer Alara remembered. His once boyish face now carried the weight of countless battles, and his rugged demeanor exuded quiet strength. The crowd parted as Alara approached him. "You're the one," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You saved me on Andare Prime." Kale blinked, surprised. "I didn't think you'd remember." "How could I forget?" she replied, her voice steadying. "You gave me a second chance at life." The crowd leaned in, eager to hear the exchange. Whispers rippled through the hall. Most had never seen the usually composed princess so vulnerable. Kale chuckled lightly, scratching the back of his neck. "It was just the right thing to do." "No," Alara said firmly, her voice carrying across the room. "You did more than save me, you inspired me. Every decision I've made since then, every treaty, every alliance, has been driven by the courage you showed me that day." Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, she dropped to one knee. "Captain Kale Rylan, I owe you a debt I can never repay, but if you'll allow it, I wish to make you my royal protector." Gasps filled the room. It was unheard of for a royal to offer such a position to a commoner, let alone a human. Kale stared at her, his expression unreadable. "Princess, I'm just a soldier. I'm not fit for palace life." "You're more than that," Alara countered, rising to her feet. "You're a symbol of everything I strive to be, selfless, brave, and true. Eldoria needs someone like you." For a moment, the room held its breath. Finally, Kale smiled. "If it's your will, princess, then I accept." The hall erupted in applause, but Alara's gaze never left Kale's. In her heart, she knew this was only the beginning of a partnership that would shape the future of the galaxy. As the applause echoed through the grand ballroom, Princess Alara motioned for the crowd to settle. Her voice rang out, commanding yet warm. "Let tonight mark the beginning of a new chapter for Eldoria. Captain Kale Rylan has agreed to stand by my side, not as a mere protector, but as a symbol of the unity between our people." The audience, a mixture of alien dignitaries, human envoys, and galactic leaders, murmured among themselves. The gesture was bold. Humans were still seen by many as outsiders in the galactic political sphere, but Alara's words carried weight, and her vision of unity resonated with those present. Gale, still somewhat overwhelmed, leaned closer to Alara and whispered, "You sure you're not biting off more than you can chew?" "I'm not exactly the diplomatic type." Alara smiled, her eyes sparkling with determination. "That's precisely why I need you, Gale. Your honesty cuts through the noise. You remind people of what truly matters." As the evening progressed, the two were bombarded with questions from curious onlookers. Kale found himself recounting his days as a lone explorer, his survival on Andare Prime, and his decision to intervene when he saw a young girl in peril. "It wasn't heroic," he said modestly, "it was instinct. I couldn't just walk away." But to Alara, it was so much more. She saw in Kale the embodiment of humanity's potential. Raw courage tempered with humility, a quality she believed could bridge the divide between species. The ripple effect. Over the next weeks, Kale's appointment as Royal Protector made headlines across the galaxy. Some lauded the decision as a step toward greater inclusivity, while others criticized it as a reckless gamble. Kale himself struggled to adjust to palace life. Training sessions with the Royal Guards left them in awe of his combat skills, but his blunt manner clashed with the court's formalities. Still, Alara defended him at every turn. "You don't need to impress them," she reassured him after a tense meeting with the council. "You've already proven yourself where it counts." Gale, however, wasn't content to simply guard the princess. He began working with Alara on new initiatives, focusing on improving relations between humans and Eldoria's allies. His practical insights complemented her diplomatic finesse, and their partnership quickly became the cornerstone of Eldoria's policy. The shocking declaration. Months later, during a summit of galactic leaders, Alara made an announcement that sent shockwaves across the galaxy. "Today, I declare Captain Kale Rylan not only my protector but my equal, effective immediately. He will serve as co-regent of Eldoria, representing humanity's voice in our council." The room erupted into chaos. Some cheered, others shouted in protest. Kale himself was stunned. "Alara," he whispered, "you didn't tell me about this." "I didn't want to give you the chance to refuse," she replied with a sly smile. When the uproar subsided, Alara addressed the assembly. "For too long, we have clung to outdated divisions. Kale represents a new era, one where we stand together, not as separate species, but as a united galaxy." Gale, recovering from his initial shock, stepped forward. "I don't know about being a ruler," he said, his voice steady, "but I do know what it means to fight for what's right. If standing beside Alara helps bring peace, I'll do it." A new era. In the weeks that followed, Kale and Alara worked tirelessly to prove the validity of their partnership. Together, they negotiated treaties, dismantled old prejudices, and inspired a wave of optimism across the galaxy. Their bond grew stronger, not just as allies but as friends, perhaps even something more. Though the path ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: the princess and her savior were a force to be reckoned with, and their story was far from over. The Whisper of Shadows. Despite their growing influence and the undeniable progress they had made, Alara and Kale's partnership wasn't without its challenges. Not everyone in the galaxy embraced the idea of a human sharing the throne of Eldoria. Among the critics was a shadowy coalition of noble families who believed Kale's rise threatened the sanctity of their traditions. Rumors of dissent began to swirl, whispering of plots to undermine their rule. Alara's advisors urged caution, suggesting she distance herself from Kale to appease the discontented factions, but Alara refused. "He saved my life and stood by me when no one else would," she declared during a council meeting. "I will not abandon him now." Gale, however, wasn't as confident. "Alara, I don't want to put you in danger," he said one evening as they walked through the palace gardens. "You don't put me in danger," she replied softly, "you make me stronger." Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden appearance of a royal guard. "Your Highness, Captain Rylan, there's been a breach in the lower levels of the palace." Kale's instincts kicked in immediately. "Get her to safety," he ordered, but Alara shook her head. "We face this together." The Assassin's Gambit. Racing through the dimly lit corridors of the palace, they found themselves confronting a group of masked intruders armed with advanced weaponry. It became clear that this wasn't a simple breach, it was an assassination attempt. Kale moved with practiced precision, his every action a testament to his years of survival and combat experience. Alara, too, proved her mettle, using her training to disarm and incapacitate one of the attackers. In the chaos, the leader of the group turned his weapon on Alara, but Kale was faster. Throwing himself in front of her, he took the blast directly to his shoulder, the impact sending him sprawling. "No!" Alara cried, catching him as he fell. Despite his injury, Kale gritted his teeth and pushed himself to his feet. "I'm not done yet." Together, they fought off the remaining attackers until reinforcements arrived to secure the area. The Aftermath. In the days that followed, the palace was fortified, and an investigation into the attack uncovered ties to the disgruntled noble families. Alara acted swiftly, stripping the conspirators of their titles and ensuring justice was served. Gale, recovering from his injury, was visited by Alara in the infirmary. "You're lucky to be alive," she said, her voice tinged with both relief and frustration. "You're welcome," he replied with a smirk, wincing as he adjusted himself on the bed. Her expression softened. "You don't have to keep throwing yourself in harm's way for me, Gale." "I'm not just doing it for you," he said, his voice serious. "I'm doing it for everything we're trying to build." Alara took his hand, her grip firm yet gentle. "Then we'll build it together, no matter what comes, we face it as one. A Galaxy United." The assassination attempt, though harrowing, only strengthened the bond between Alara and Gale. Their resolve inspired countless others, and their vision of a united galaxy began to take root. Over time, their partnership blossomed into something more profound. Though they never openly spoke of it, their connection was evident to all who saw them, a bond forged in trust, respect, and shared purpose. As the years passed, Alara and Gale became legends. Together, they reshaped the galaxy, proving that unity wasn't just a dream but a reality worth fighting for. And through it all, they remained side by side, the princess and her long-lost savior, rewriting the stars together. The call beyond the stars. Years passed, and the galaxy began to stabilize under the joint leadership of Princess Alara and Captain Gale Rylan. The once fractured alliances between species gave way to unprecedented cooperation, trade flourished, wars ceased, and a new era of exploration dawned. But just as peace seemed secure, a signal was intercepted, a faint, ancient transmission originating from the uncharted regions of the void. The message was cryptic, containing fragmented warnings about an ancient force that could threaten the entire galaxy. The council convened to discuss the matter. Many were skeptical, dismissing the signal as a relic of the past, but Gale, ever the pragmatist, felt a deep unease. "This isn't just noise," he said, his voice firm. "It's a warning, whatever sent this." They didn't survive to tell the full story. Alara nodded, sharing his concern. "We can't ignore it. If there's even a chance this is a threat, we need to investigate." A new journey. Against the advice of her council, Alara decided to personally lead an expedition to uncover the source of the transmission. Gale, of course, refused to let her go alone. "This might be bigger than anything we've faced," he told her as they boarded the Starbound Resolve. "Are you ready for that?" Alara smiled, her determination unwavering. "As long as you're with me, I'm ready for anything." Their crew consisted of the best and brightest from across the galaxy, scientists, diplomats, warriors, and engineers. Together, they ventured into the void, pushing past known territories into the unexplored regions of the cosmos. The Forgotten World. After months of travel, they arrived at the source of the signal, a desolate planet orbiting a dying star. The surface was littered with ruins, evidence of a once great civilization now reduced to dust. As they explored, they uncovered clues about the planet's fate. The civilization, known as the Laran Ascendancy, had been wiped out by a force they called the Eclipsing Shadow. It wasn't a mere enemy, it was a sentient, galaxy-spanning phenomenon that consumed all in its path. Gale frowned as he studied the holographic records. They fought it, they built weapons, defenses. But it wasn't enough. "They left this warning for a reason," Alara said, her voice heavy with resolve. "We need to be the ones to stop it." The Eclipsing Shadow. As they pieced together the puzzle, the crew began to experience strange phenomena, shadows moving where there was no light, whispers in the darkness. The ship's systems faltered, and morale began to waver. Gale, ever the anchor, rallied the crew. "This thing feeds on fear, it wants us to break, but we're stronger than that. Stick together, and we'll find a way through." Alara led from the front, using her calm authority to keep the team focused. Together, she and Gale discovered that the Lyrans had left behind a prototype weapon, a device capable of creating a ripple of energy strong enough to disrupt the Shadow's hold on the galaxy. The final stand. Activating the weapon, however, came at a cost. It required someone to remain behind to manually power the device, ensuring its activation. "I'll do it," Gale said without hesitation. "No," Alara said firmly, her voice breaking, "I won't lose you." Gale placed a hand on her shoulder. "You won't, not really. This is what we've been fighting for, Alara. to protect everything and everyone we care about. Tears filled her eyes, but she knew he was right. Then I'll stay with you, she whispered. No, Kale said softly, the galaxy needs you more than it needs me. Their goodbye was brief but filled with unspoken words. As Alara and the crew returned to the ship, Kale activated the device. A brilliant wave of light swept across the void, consuming the eclipsing shadow and restoring peace to the galaxy. The legacy. When the stubborn resolve returned to Eldoria, Alara carried with her the story of Kale's sacrifice. She ensured his name would never be forgotten, his courage immortalized in the hearts of all who heard the tale. But deep within her heart, she believed Kale wasn't truly gone. Somewhere, beyond the stars, his spirit lingered, watching over her and the galaxy they had saved together. And so, the legacy of the princess and her savior lived on, inspiring generations to reach for the stars and fight for the light, even in the face of the darkest shadow. Echoes of the Starburn. Years after Kale's sacrifice, Alara still carried his memory with her. His courage and determination had become the foundation of Eldoria's golden age, inspiring unity across the galaxy. Statues were erected in his honor, and his story was told in every academy and council chamber. But for Alara, the loss was deeply personal. Though she ruled with wisdom and strength, a part of her heart remained tethered to the stars, always wondering if Kale's final act had truly been the end of his journey. Then, one quiet evening in the palace, a strange signal reached the Royal Communication Center. The frequency was faint and fragmented, eerily similar to the ancient Lyran transmission that had set their fateful journey in motion. Could it be another warning? One of her advisors asked. No, Alara said, her voice trembling. This is different. She recognized the pattern within the static, a rhythm that matched the cadence of an old Earth melody Kale used to hum when the days on the Starburn Resolve grew long. The search begins. Unable to ignore the possibility, Alara rallied a new expedition. The council urged her to remain behind, warning of potential dangers in the unexplored regions. But her resolve was unshakable. Kale gave everything to save us. If there's even a chance he's still out there, I have to find him. The galaxy responded to her call for aid. Volunteers from dozens of species joined her cause, eager to repay the debt owed to the man who had united them. Among them were veterans of the Starburn Resolve crew, engineers, scientists, and even members of the Galactic Guard. The newly commissioned Starburn Vanguard launched into the void, following the faint signal through uncharted space. The Lost Realm. Months of travel led them to a remote sector of the galaxy, shrouded in a dense, glowing nebula. At its heart was a planet unlike any they had seen before, a world of shifting landscapes and cascading light, as if reality itself was unstable. Landing on the planet, they found remnants of advanced technology and traces of Kale's energy signature. It became clear that the eclipsing shadow's destruction had not ended Kale's story. The weapon's activation had propelled him into a liminal dimension, caught between existence and oblivion. As the team delved deeper, Alara encountered what appeared to be a living projection of Kale. Though faint and flickering, his form was unmistakable. Alara. His voice was strained, but his expression was one of awe. You came for me? Tears filled her eyes. Always. The price of reunion. Kale explained that the energy from the weapon had merged him with the fabric of the dimension. He was neither alive nor dead, existing as a guardian to ensure the shadow never returned. I don't belong in your world anymore, he said, his voice filled with regret. You belong with me, Alara insisted. We'll find a way to bring you back. Together, the crew worked tirelessly to stabilize Kale's presence. They discovered that the advanced technology on the planet was left behind by the Lyrans, designed to trap the eclipsing shadow and prevent its return. Using it, they might anchor Kale's essence back to the physical world, but at a cost. The process required a massive energy release that could destabilize the planet and trap anyone left behind. I can't let you risk everything for me, Kale said. You didn't give me a choice back then, Alara replied with a determined smile. Now it's my turn to be stubborn. The return. The crew completed the process just as the planet began to collapse. Alara stayed by Kale's side as his form grew more solid, his humanity returning with every passing moment. With seconds to spare, They escaped aboard the starboard Vanguard, watching as the planet imploded, sealing the dimensional rift forever. Kale, still weak but very much alive, turned to Alara. "You really don't know how to quit, do you?" "Not when it comes to you," she said, her voice soft but unwavering. A new chapter. Kale's return sparked a renewed wave of hope across the galaxy. He and Alara, now partners in every sense of the word, continued to lead with a vision of unity and resilience. Together, they ventured into new frontiers, not just as rulers but as explorers, determined to uncover the galaxy's mysteries and protect its future. Their love, forged in the crucible of danger and sacrifice, became the stuff of legend, proving that even in the vastness of the cosmos, some bonds could never be broken. And as they gazed at the stars from the bridge of the starboard Vanguard, Alara took Kale's hand in hers. "Whatever comes next," she said, "we face it together." "Always," he replied, a smile spreading across his face.